We're now on the top of Daf Lamed Vav Amid Beis, and Rabbi Yirmiyah is offering an explanation of the machlokas between Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Akiva in the violation of Matnas Aniyim. Is there a kapara of Ola? The lav did avela kamifli. The machlokas really boils down to how to classify and define the lav of nevela. The Torah says al sochlu kol nevela, and then the Torah says la gera sherbesherechet etnena. You're not allowed to eat the flesh of the carcass of an animal that died without shechita. You have to give it to a ger, gratis. Rabbi Akiva Sovar lav ma'al. This is not a lav anita klesi. He'll get malchus for violating achilas nevela. The Torah is not saying that there's some sort of a tikkun on the lav after you ate the nevela by feeding it and giving it as a gift to the ger. So the lav stands independent of the essay and therefore generates malchus. So lav ma'aliyah, it's a full-fledged lav. Rabbi Yossi Aglili on the other hand, Sovar, lav ma'aliyah. It's not a regular genuine lav, and it doesn't generate malchus because the Torah tells you with regard to this lav that that makes it into a lav anita kliyese. And the same machlokes regard to nevela, whether it generates malchus, do we classify it as a classic lav or a lav anita kliyese, applies now to leket shikupeya. And just like Rabbi Akiva would say in the case of nevela that there's a chi of malchus, because Rabbi Akiva sees the lav as independent of the essay, and the essay is therefore not a nituk, it's not a rectification of the lav. Rabbi Yossi, on the other hand, holds that there's no malchus in the case of leket shikupeya, just like there's no malchus l'shitaso in the case of nevela. Meaning that once the Torah says what you should do and gives you a positive kumva say, like in the case of leket shikupeya, the Torah says tazov osom, and we saw in nevela, the Torah says give the nevela to a ger. That makes the lav itself a lav anita kliyese. Therefore, if we summarize Rabbi Yirmiyah's presentation, we could say that the machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi Aglili regarding leket shikupeya, is there a carbon ola to be mechaper, really is a machlokes about how to classify a mitzvah asay which is connected to a los asay. And Abai disagrees. Abai Omar, dekuli amalav dinave lav malya have, even Rabbi Yossi Aglili would agree that in the case of nevela, certainly you get malchus. But hacha, here's a more specific machlokes. V'tazov kamichu. Rabbi Akiva saw Tazov made kara mashma. Rabbi Akiva understood that Tazov, leave the leket shikupeya for the aniyim, is the original essay. And if you don't leave it for the aniyim, but you take it for yourself, then you violate the lav of lo salaket. Rabbi Yossi Aglili saw hashta mashma. Yossi Aglili says that the pasuk of Tazov osam indicates that if in event you violated the law and you took the matnas aniyim for yourself, then the Torah is saying replace it and give it again, make it accessible to the aniyim. And therefore the essay of Tazov is serving as a nituk on the law. And therefore, Rabbi Yossi Aglili, according to Abai's argument, in this particular case of matnas aniyim, classifies the lav as a lav anita kliyese, hence there's no malchus, and therefore it comes under the kapara of a karbonola. Now, if we look at the psukim inside, in Parshas Kedoshim, which is Vayikra Perek Yutes, it says, "B'kutzrechem es k'tzir atzachem, lo sechaleh pa'asad chol l'ktzar, that's pasuk tes. And later on, it's going to say in pasuk yud la oni v'lager tazov otsam. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili reads the psukim in the sequence that they appear, and he says that sequentially the tazov otsam comes after the violation of the lav lo skalapas Sodcha. Hence, it becomes a lavanita klies. Again, according to Abaye, the machlokes is a very specific machlokes as to how to interpret the Taz of Otsam in the cases of Matnas. We learned in the Brisa, case of Misvad. Now we have machlokes about how to set up the sequence of Avon, Chet, and Pesha in the recitation of Vidu. According to the Brisa, reflecting the opinion of Rabbi Meir, of Visi, Pashati, Vichatasi. That sounds strange to our ears because we don't necessarily reflect Lamaisa, the Shita of Rabbi Meir. But Rabbi Meir is really going from a serious sin, which is Avisi, Avon is called Mezid, up to the level of Pachati, which is rebellion, and then down a level to Chatasi, which is a Shogeg. V'chein b'soria mishtalechu omer, when the Kohen Gadol recites the vidui on the sawyer that's going to be sent out Lazazil, also it says v'svada olav eskol avonots b'nei Yisrael v'eskol pishehem l'chol chatosa. If you follow the sequence in the pasuk, the vidui starts with avon, goes on to pesha, and then mentioning chet v'chein, and so to be Moshe. Moshe, when he recites vidui, and this is, I believe, I'll double check this in a minute, after the Egel, who Omer, Moshe says, no say avon v'fesha v'chata. And clearly, the sequence starts with avon, going on to pesha, and ending with chata. And this is in Shmos Perek Lamed, in Parshas Kitisa, the parsha of the Akedah. So we see clearly that the sequence here is avon pesha chata. Divrei Reb Meir, Chacham Ramu no. Avonos elas donos. We know that the word avon indicates a deliberate sin. And I'll prove it to you. V'cheinu Omer. The pasuk says in the parsha of Avodah Zarah, in Sefer Bamidbar, it says, "He kores hanefesh ahi avono ba." We're talking about a chiyuv kares, which is obviously from Mazid, and it's called avon. Pshoim elu hamaradim, and pesha refers to a rebellious act against the Almighty, chas v'sholom, provoke Hashem's anger. V'cheinu Omer, I'll prove it to you from a pasuk in Malachim Beis, Melech Moav Pashabi, means he rebelled against him. The Omer, another pasuk, which we'll see also in Malachim, Oz Tifsha Livna B'Yesahi, and these psukim all indicate, because Livna also rebelled against the king, Yehoram in that case, Melch Yehuda, that the concept of Pesha is a very severe violation, the most severe violation of rebellion. But l'chol chatosam, the word chet is elu ashgados, and I'll prove that to you from a pasuk in Vayikra. It says nefesh kisecha bishgaga. So we see that chet is identified as shgaga. That's an inadvertent violation, and therefore the Chachamim reject Rabbi Meir by saying the following logic: Ume acher shesvadal as donos the alamarodim, when he's intensifying the level of sin, then choser misvadal shgogos. Now we should go down the level to talk about a shogeg. It doesn't make any sense. You know, he's already pleaded on behalf of the most severe. Start by pleading for kapara atonement for the less severe, which is chet. Elakach haya misvadim, but rather than from Vita the Kohen Gadol was, and this we're very familiar with, chatasi the avisi of pashati l'fanechani u'beitzi. So we go from chet, which is the lowest level, to amon, which already is mazid, and then we go to pesha. V'chein b'David Omer, I'll prove it to you from the vidui of David HaMelech in Tehillim. He says, Chatanu im avosenu, havinu v'hirshanu. So we see that chet comes before avon. How can you possibly reverse the order, Rabbi Meir, and have avon before chet? Shlomo Omer, Chatanu, Hevinu, Roshanu. Chet comes before Avon. Chem Daniel Omer. Chatanu, V'Avinu, V'Roshanu Maradnu. So clearly, a shogeg comes first in the sequence of vidui, and then a deliberate violation, which is amazing, like Avon, comes later. And if you'll ask me, Rabbi Meir, well, what about Moshe Rabbeinu? Ela Ma'u Sha'amar Moshe, what does it mean that Moshe in his vidui said, no say Avon v'feshe v'chata, placing Avon before Chet, Omar Moshe v'nei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shalom, v'shosh Yisrael chotim l'fanecha v'yosim tshuva, aselems donos kishgagos. So no say Avon, your compassion, God, will be to consider Avon and even Pesha as Chata'ah, considered as if they did it b'shogeg, meaning they really weren't, deep down inside, they weren't rebellious. And that's how Moshe Rabbeinu was invoking divine compassion. But as far as Vida is concerned, for sure, we would have to have Chet before Pesha and before Avon. That seems obvious. In a machlokas between Rabbi Meir as a single dissenting view and the Chachamim, the majority view, we always passing like the Chachamim. So the Gemara asks Pshita, Yochim and Rab Malach, we always passing like the Rabbim. Malditim, I would have said, Mistaber Taima, the Rabbi Meir, if you read the pasuk about Moshe Rabbeinu, straightforward before you add a drasha, Moshe's pasuk and his vida in sequence is a clear-cut proof to Rabbi Meir. And therefore, we should accept the sheet of Rabbi Meir, Kamach Malon. That's what Rav wants to tell me. That nevertheless, we pass like the Chachamim, accepting their reinterpretation of the pasuk by Moshe Rabbeinu. Gemara tells us a story about Ahuda Noches Kamei de Rabbah. There was a Shliach Tzibur in the presence of Rabbah, the Avak Rabbi Meir. And he actually implemented the Shita of Rabbi Meir, starting with Avon, going up to Pesha, and concluding with Chet in the vidui that he recited. Omalei, Chavkis Rabbon v'Avos Rabbi Meir. Do you leave out, ignore the Shita of the Chacham in favor of the Shita Rabbi Meir? And he answers, Omalei, Ki Rabbi Meir Svirli. I think Rabbi Meir is right, because that's the way it appears. That's the way the Torah presents it in the vidui of Moshe Rabbeinu. And it's very interesting that the Gemara doesn't report that Rabbah stopped him or disagreed with him, scolded him, reprimanded him in any way. And some of the poskim therefore feel that we can, and we have the option of poskim like Rabbi Meir and taking the poskim by Moshe's vidui literally. But the majority of the poskim will say that we poskim like the Chachamim, and it's not catastrophic if you implement the nusach havidu, the sequence of vidui of Rabbi Meir. Torah Rabbanu, we learned to the Bryce of a chiper with regard to the avodah of the Kohen Gadol on the par. It says that he should be mechaper on his own behalf and on behalf of his household. And the Gemara says here in the name of the Brisa that the kaparas dvarim hakosim medaber. The word v'chiper here in this pasuk is a reference to vidui. Ata omer v'kaparas dvarim o eno el v'kaparas damim. Maybe you'll argue, no, we're talking about the kapara of the zrikas adam, because classically in any carbon, the zrikas adam is what generates and clinches the kapara. So you might argue that v'chiper should be understood here in the context of Parashal Kohen Gadol, the way we always understand v'chiper. It's referring to the kaparas damim, harei anidan. But here I have a gzera shav. Nemra kan kapara in the parsha of the Parashal Kohen Gadol, it says kapara. But nemra lahalon kapara with regard to the sa'ir amishtalech. The Torah again uses the word kapara. And the pasuk says, "Vasoyer asher ola olav hagoro lazazel." Ya'amod chai lifnei Hashem lechaper olav, the identical word lechaper. Ma kapara mur b'soyer. Now the word kapara in the context of soyer, which I could not refer to damim because there is no matan damim. Soyer is sent lazazel and it's thrust off the precipice, it must be that the word v'chaper, by definition, and we have no choice in the matter, is referring to kaparas dvarim to vidu, is dvarim. Is af kapara mura kapar. Now, by virtue of this Xera Shava, v'chaper, we're going to say that the v'chaper of the par shel kohen gadol, the chiper, is a reference to kaparas dvarim. V'im nafshecha lomar. But if you insist that this Xera Shava is not absolutely convincing, and the Gemara is going to ask why not? What was the counter argument? But if in event you don't want to rely on this Xera Shava to prove from the soil azazel that the v'chiper and the partial kohen gadol is reference to kaparas dvarim to the vidui, harehu omer. But the pasuk says right after the par, it says v'ikriv Aaron es par chatos shelo v'chiper bado v'yad beso. Now it's very interesting in the sequence of the psukim. The word v'chiper, with regard in the context of par chatos, appears earlier than the actual shechita. So it's really interesting. You open up to Vayikra Perek Zayin, pasuk Yud Aleph, and the pasuk describes the second time that the Kohen Gadol is misvada on the par, and he hasn't yet shechted the par. And yet the Torah uses the word v'chiper. It can't be that v'chiper is referring to matan damim when he hasn't even shechted the carbon yet. Adayin lo nishkar apar. We have no choice but to assume that the v'chiper is referring to kaparas dvarim, to vidu. So the Gemara asks, Ma'im nafshcha lomar, what compelled the Brisa to come up with a second convincing argument that v'chiper refers to kaparas dvarim? What was wrong with the Xeret Shava? Can you punch a hole in the Xeret Shava? V'chitema, you might have argued, Neilif misar shenasa b'fnim shekaparaso b'damim. We're not exactly sure which, when we have a Xeret Shava and we're equating the v'chiper of the partial kohen gadol, to what are we equating it? There are two seirim. There's one seir that's b'fnim, that's going to be a classic korban chatos with all the trimmings, and then there's the sorel azazel. We don't know for sure which of the two the Torah had in mind in this Xera Shava, and therefore neilif misar anasir b'fnim shekaparaso b'dvarim. Right, the pasuk says v'chiper al hakodesh mitumos b'nei Yisrael. And with regard to the sar hapnimi, the Torah used the word v'chiper. So the same v'chiper that appears in the parasha of Paro Shel Kohen Gadol appears in the sar bifnim, the sar hapnimi. And here clearly, the word v'chiper in the sa'ir is referring to kaparas damim because it's after shechita. And if that be the case, then when we have this equation between the par and the sire, it could be that the sire that we have in mind here, and the Torah wants to equate it to, is the sire apnimi, which would mean that we're not going to derive the conclusion that v'chiper is referring to kaparas dvarim and vidui, but rather to matan damim. And therefore, hareu omer, now we need v'chiper, and we analyze the sequence of v'chiper and then the shechita in the paro shel kohen gadol, and the v'chiper ba'ado biad beiso, etc., is in the pasuk before the shechita, and therefore dain lo nishkar apar. It cannot be that we're referring to the kapar power of the matan damim. We must willy-nilly be referring to the kapar power of the vidui. And the Gemara here on the top of Daf Lamed Zayin, which Mir Hashem will study tomorrow, is going to go back to the nusach of the vidui as it's formulated in the Mishnah, and we'll go back to the Mishnah just to remind ourselves that the vidui of the Kohen Gadol opens up with the words honor, with the word honor. Sorry, I have to just, in this Gemara, you have to turn pages. It says over here, V'kachaya omer, Ana Hashem. So he opens up his vidui with the word Ana, and the Gemara on the top here of Lamed Zayin, Minayin Sheba Ana. How do we know? How did the Mishnah know that the opening word of the vidui of the Kohen Gadol is the word Ana? That's Lamed Zayin, which in Mitzvah Shem will be the next daf. And I'm wishing you a great day.